What's up, guys? Welcome to the Serial Dreamer Podcast. I am your host, Daryl Fagans. Thank you, first and foremost, for everybody that has streamed or listened to the first episode of the podcast up on Spotify. I appreciate you wholeheartedly. If you haven't listened to it, please go check that out now. If you can, please rate the episode for me. Rate the podcast and help me move up the algorithm a little bit more. I have also uploaded the episode to YouTube, so if you want to go to YouTube and check that out, you're welcome to do so. Today, we're going to jump into a little bit of a motivational series about fear, with me kind of transitioning into what I would like to call my dream season. I'm actually going after a lot of things that I have pushed aside for over a decade at this point. So I'm going into what I'm calling my dream chapter. This is the chapter where I'm going after my dream, but like I said in the previous episode, my dream is so vastly connected to my calling that it's making it feel just very, very unreal for me right now. So I'm going to talk about kind of that transition and what took me so long to get there. And the biggest thing was fear, and so I was talking to a friend of mine a week or so ago about this exact same thing, about why are we so scared to go after what it is that means the most to us. The one thing or a couple of things that we think about all the time, the things that we really want to do, the things we really see ourselves being or doing, we are fearful when it comes to going after that thing sometimes, and we allow so many different obstacles in the way of either our own personal, mental feelings or people or whatever it may be. We allow those things to get in the way of us going after those dreams. For me, real estate, first and foremost, the foundation of that dream, for me has been a dream of mine for over 20 years, something that coming out of high school I wanted to do. Back then it was the excuse of I just didn't know anybody that did real estate, which I didn't. I didn't know, coming from Phoenix City, Alabama, Smith Station area, I didn't know anybody in real estate. That wasn't the popular thing to do back then as far as like a little black kid in that city. Renovation, I think I knew a couple of people that worked on houses, but it wasn't to the point of being in actual house flipping and renovation and stuff like that. So I didn't have anybody that I could really use as a mentor, as a motivation to kind of get me over those humps of self-doubt. So it was easy for me back then to kind of pass it along and say, well, you know what, I should be going to school anyway. I shouldn't be trying to go get a real estate license. I should be going to school. That's what you do when you graduate high school. You either go to the military or you go to school, right? So I'm thinking in my mind, like, I'm behind the curve, so I need to just go to school and do whatever I need to do. So 2006, I put the dream aside. 2012, once again, put the dream aside. But this time, I was in Atlanta at the time, and I remember I got invited to go to a taping of a show called Candy Coated Nights. A singer from the group Escape, her name is Candy. She had a show that she was taping out of her clothing store called Tags. Got invited to go down there. So me and a few friends of mine, we actually started going to the tapings, and we met, Candy. We met DJ A1, and they had a co-host. I think her name was Nikki or Nicole. It might have been Nikki Nicole, honestly. But so we met all three of them. We used to actually, spend a great amount of time with them, at those tapings behind the scenes, talking to them, and just learning a lot about that industry as well as just the business industry itself. And I've picked Candy's brain quite a bit about, just kind of how do you get over the failures? How do you get over being told no? How do you get over the fact that, like, for her, I was asking, after Escape, you go on to write for TLC, you go on to write for Alicia Keys, you go on to do all these things that I consider to be probably bigger than what you were doing. How do you do that instead of just accepting the failure? And I was like, can you kind of walk me through your process? Like, mentally, how do you deal with that? And so she was very transparent with me about kind of the mental side of going through those downs. But the thing is, there's gonna be an up eventually. Those ups may not last long, or they may not feel like they last long because there may be a down that comes right behind it. But even with that motivation, I still just couldn't get myself over that first initial hump, that fear of failure. What if I fail? You put all this money into something and then it doesn't work. You do all this studying, you do all this prepping, you do all this stuff, and then you fail. Either you fail the test, or you get out there and you don't sell no houses, or you get out there and you're trying to be a renovation, specialist, and then nobody hires you to renovate anything. What if you fail? So I stuck to what was easy. I stuck to just working and doing the little knick-knack things I was doing, like coaching here and there and doing stuff like that, because it was just easy. It was comfortable, and as long as I'm the one that's teaching somebody else, I'm never really in a situation where I can fail. I'm just teaching what I know, and you take what you can from it. So that's 2012. 2016, once again, I try again, but I just kind of let myself give up. And at that point, I remember my mom and I were going over some stuff. I actually enrolled in Auburn in the real estate course online, and I paid for everything, and I just didn't do it. It came time to start the class, and I let people talk me out of it. How hard the exam was, how hard the industry was, how hard all this stuff is, and just talked out of it. 2020 comes. I'm living in Atlanta. I'm working at Delta Community Credit Union. Great job. COVID hits, so now we're working 1 week on, 1 week off. We're rotating, financial specialists out of one branch, and so I'm working in the office for 1 week, and then the next week I'm off for the whole week. And then, so I said, it's the perfect time to do it. I got the people around me that I need around me to go after it, so this is the perfect time to go. And once again, I get scared. What if I fail? Now I have people invested in me. Now I have people around me that they're going to be watching me do this. So now I'm scared that I'm going to fail, and it's going to be more embarrassing than anything. So I'm not really worried about failure on my end. I'm worried about failure and how it looks to them. And I let myself, once again, but I don't blame it on failures. I don't say, hey, I'm scared that this might not work. I blame it on something else. Oh, I got to move to Huntsville now because, this for these reasons. I got to move to Huntsville to help out, these kids. And so I go. I just pack up everything, move to Huntsville, and I forget about the real estate thing yet again. To me, it was just like, just put it to the back burner. It's not meant to happen. If it was meant to, and then this is another thing that we do when we're fearful or when we want stuff to be just how we want it. We blame God in a way. We're like, well, if God wants me to do it, then He'll let me know. He'll make it happen if He wants me to do it. And I'm like, for the last 4 times He's put it in front of you, you still didn't do it. What else does He have to say to you? So 2025 comes around. At this point, if you listen to the last episode, you'll understand how miserable I was in Huntsville, Alabama. And when I say miserable, I mean to the point that it was a struggle. It was a struggle for me to get up every day. And I used to get up and I would go to these basketball games and I would go to these camps. I would take, kids to football camps and stuff. And I'm putting on this face, and I'm watching myself really just be kind of used. I knew I was being used, but at the time I'm like, I don't really care. That's how miserable I am. I don't really care. There's nothing for me here. I don't want to be here. This is not the city I want to be in. This is not the city I see myself growing in. Everything I'm trying to start is coming with so many backlashes, so many obstacles that should not be in the place. So I know this isn't the city for me, but I keep on pretending. I keep on wearing this mask and I keep on trucking along till it got so bad because my youngest son, Noel, he started being affected by the way I think people, he could feel how people were treating me. He could feel kind of how people didn't really want to put up with him. Like, we had some good people around us, a couple good people around us that really enjoyed being around him, made him feel really good. To this day, he still asks about them. But so many people that he started catching on to the fact it's like, man, we show up for everybody and nobody's showing up for us at all. He hears me on the phone talking to, my parents saying, like, I don't have nobody even watching for me. I need to work these hours and do these clinicals or do this or do that. And it's like, I don't have nobody watching. People are telling me they don't want to watch him. So he could feel that stress and anxiety that I was going through up there. And so when I started seeing him being affected by my misery, they say misery loves company. He's the one person I was like, I don't want to be affected by me being in this mental space that I'm in, this spiritual space that I'm in. I don't want him to be affected negatively by that. And that led me to taking that jump into, when God put Atlanta back on my heart again, I took the leap. I said, this time I don't care what happens. I don't care if I have to, I don't care what I have to do. I'm gone. The first date I can get, I'm gone. And the first date was March 7th. Because he was starting spring break in Huntsville that next week. So I took it. I'll move in this day. I don't even care. I don't need to see the apartment. I don't care. I'm coming that day. So taking that leap of faith made God put this real estate thing right back in front of me again. I got a phone call from a broker that I literally seen on HGTV. Got a phone call because she was giving my contact information by an agent that met me in Publix. We had a conversation in Publix. She got my information and she ended up passing it along. I didn't know this was the broker she was referring to, but she passes it along to this broker. She calls me, tells me she will pay for me to get my real estate. Well, pay for me to take the courses. I would have to pay for the state exams and stuff like that myself, but she'll pay for me to take the course. And at this point, I'm like, God can't make it more clear for you. He can't make it more obvious for you. Whatever fear you have of failing, at least right now, failing at passing this test, failing at getting through this course, you can't let that be the reason you don't do it now, because God's literally telling you, take it, do it. This is the time. If you don't do it now, when will you do it? You've been putting this off for 20 plus years. If you don't do it now, when will you do it? When will be the next time you get a chance to do it? Your son's about to be 10 years old. The next time you get an opportunity, what is he going to be, 14, 15? How do you tell him to go after his dreams? How do you tell him that he doesn't have to be scared to fail if you are literally paralyzed by the fear of failing? So I jump at it. I tell her yes. I get in it. That was a Wednesday. By that Friday, she had got the brokerage, Keller Williams, to get me set up in the courses and all that. Monday, I started taking the course. Took it for 2 weeks. Monday through Sunday, Sunday through Sunday, just took it for 2 weeks. Went on ahead and finished the courses. I took one section in the mornings before school, and I took 2 sections at night after everybody's in the bed. And I did that until I finished the course. I then took the course exam, passed it. Now I'm going into the state exam to get prepped for it, to study for it. And once again, people are starting to tell me how hard it is. This is the hardest exam. The state exam is nothing like the course exam. The state exam is going to try to trick you. They're going to try to do this. They're going to have words like this and words like that. Mind you, aced the course exam. Mind you, went into the course seeing terminology I've been seeing for 20 plus years, longer than that. I've been studying real estate and real estate concepts since I was probably 10, 11 years old. So I'm seeing stuff that I already know, but I'm still psyching myself out. That fear started to paralyze me again. When it was time to get ready for that state exam, that fear started paralyzing me again. What if I fail? This time, my excuse is, how do I tell my my son that I failed. What do I say to him? You just watched your dad study hard for 2 weeks. You've heard me on the phone telling how difficult this is, how hard this is. But I gotta do it. This is my dream. You see me every day for the last however many years. You've seen me watch, like he watches HGTV with me. Like he knows that's my go-to. He knows that's my shows. He knows it is. He watches it with me. He knows the people. He knows when I'm watching certain shows. You know, he'll ask, why am I not watching this other show? And I'm like, well, it comes on at 8. You know, he knows. So how do I tell him that the thing that he knows I'm most passionate about, I failed? And now I gotta study again. And I gotta study the whole other 2 weeks to try to take it again. So I was literally, after I paid for the exam, set the date. I set the date for the exam. It was that Monday, the 12th was my exam date. I was about to cancel the exam and say I'm not going to do it. I was that afraid to fail that I was willing to say, you know what, forget the course that I just took. Forget the fact that I just aced the course exam. Forget the fact that I'm literally feeling myself and seeing myself know this terminology and I'm feeling good about it while I'm studying. I got my coach asking me questions and I'm getting all the questions. I'm even throwing stuff back at him. Or couldn't it be this? I know that I know this stuff. I go to bed listening to vocabulary. I'm driving in the car listening to vocabulary. My son literally started answering questions with me because he had heard this stuff so many times. But I still sat there and said, you know what, I'm not going to take this test because I don't think I'm going to pass. Because everybody says how hard it is. And if I fail, what is next? I just moved from Huntsville. I just, took my son and, he's in a lot better place for sure. The school is a lot better. He has love around him. He has genuine people around him. So he's great. And for if no other reason, in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I don't care if at this point, I ain't got to do real estate. I don't have to do it. Because my son is good. My son is great. So the move was worth it regardless of what else comes of this. The move was worth it because he's doing amazing. So I'm like, you know what? I don't got to take the test. I don't take it. Because if I fail, it's a whole other conversation. I don't want to have that conversation with him. I don't want to have that conversation with my mom. I don't want to have that conversation with my dad. I don't want to have that conversation with, my teenager. I don't want to have that conversation with my sister, my family up here. I don't want to have those conversations. I failed. Forget the fact that the failure rate is so much higher than the success rate when it comes to this test. I don't care anything about that. I didn't want to fail. But I had to go for it. And I had to be willing to fail in order to pass. I had to tell myself that, you know what, if you fail, you just take it again until you pass. I went from saying that to myself over and over again to saying, you know what, you're not going to fail. Because God has made it very clear that this is the route He wants you on. And even if you do, you're still going to keep going. I hear people taking this test over and over and over again. At first I was like, no, ain't no way I'm doing that. But I said, you know what, if I fail, I'm taking it again. Because this is what I want. This is what God wants for me. This is what God said is so. I'm going to take it and I'm going to pass it. Even if it's not this first time, I'll pass it the second time. Walked in that classroom, aced it. Aced it. As scared as I was, as fearful as I was, aced it. So I'm telling you right now, whatever your dream is, if fear of failing is a reason why you're not going after it, tell yourself this. You're already failing if you're not trying. So why not try? And if you do fail, get back up and try again. Fear of failing cannot stop your destiny. let's accomplish our dream.